The spreadsheet had a transfer in it Reagan didn't remember approving. She sat at the kitchen table with her laptop cold under her palm, scrolling back through 6 years of entries she'd made in the same font, the same shorthand, Dad PT copay, Mom insurance Q3, until she hit one that didn't belong. 2,140s. Memo line. Hala Resort. Deposit. She read it 3 times before she understood it wasn't a mistake in her math. It was a mistake in her assumptions. The Together Fund had been her idea, back when her father was recovering from the surgery, and someone needed to keep the family's shared expenses from sliding into chaos. The physical therapy, the ramp for the porch, the months her mother couldn't work extra shifts. Reagan had built the account, set the rules, kept the ledger. Everyone contributed what they could. Everyone, in theory, could see where the money went. She called her mother, and her mother's voice came back too smooth, already rehearsed. Had to postpone the vacation, honey. Budget's just tight this year. The sentence had the particular flatness of something practiced first in a mirror. Reagan said okay. She said she understood. She said it so easily that she almost believed herself. It was her Aunt Carol who broke it. On purpose. Carol had never been careful with anything, least of all Facebook privacy settings. 41 photos, tagged, dated 3 days prior, turquoise water. Her father squinting under a hat he'd never worn at home. Her sister in a bikini Reagan hadn't seen her buy. And in the 11th photo, unmistakably her sister's terrier, wearing a small collar printed with hibiscus flowers, riding in a beach cart like royalty. Reagan didn't cry. She counted. She scrolled through each photo slowly, the way you count something you're trying not to feel. Table settings at a luau, 7 place cards, none of them hers. The dog had a boarding pass. She hadn't gotten a phone call. She sat with that for a long time before she moved. In her wallet, behind her driver's license, was the debit card for the Together Fund. Plain, gray, the numbers half worn off from years of being the one who paid for things. She'd never bothered replacing it because replacing it would have meant admitting she cared how it looked. She was the responsible one. Responsible people didn't need new cards. She opened the banking app the way she opened it every month, methodical, unhurried, the same motion she used to pay the electric bill. She found the card. She toggled it to frozen, then she found the number for the hotel's front desk, printed at the bottom of a confirmation email that had, apparently, once been forwarded to her by mistake and never deleted, and she called the fraud line instead. Because the account was hers to protect? Because 6 years of her name was on every line of that ledger, because nobody had asked her permission to spend from it, and so nobody could accuse her of doing anything but her job. I'd like to flag a reservation for review, she said, and gave the confirmation number and answered the questions calmly, the way she'd answered questions for 6 years. Insurance companies, pharmacies, her father's cardiologist. She had a talent for sounding unbothered. It had taken her most of her adult life to build that talent, and today, for the first time, it felt less like grace and more like something she'd been conscripted into. The first text came 40 minutes later. Why is everything declined? Then another, no punctuation this time, the kind of message typed with a thumb pressed too hard against the screen. Then a third. Then a call she watched light up the table and let ring out once, twice, until it stopped. She thought about all the ways she could answer. She thought about the dog's floral collar. She thought about the surgery, the ramp, the years she'd covered short months without saying anything because saying something felt like keeping score, and keeping score felt like something a smaller person would do. She opened her banking app one more time, sent a transfer, $1. In the memo line, she typed the words her mother had used on her for years. Whenever Reagan asked for anything beyond what was already spoken for, that's all that's left this month. The same 6 words, verbatim, that had closed 100 small requests when Reagan was young enough to still ask. She hit send before she could decide whether it was cruelty or just accuracy. Then she closed the laptop and made tea, and didn't answer the phone when it rang again, and didn't answer it the third time either, not out of anger exactly, more like she'd finally run out of the specific muscle required to keep performing calm for people who'd never once checked whether she needed anything herself. Later that night, she took the debit card out of her wallet and set it on the table, gray and blank-faced, still shaped like usefulness, even frozen. She didn't cut it up. She didn't reactivate it. She left it there between the salt shaker and a stack of unopened mail, the way you leave a decision you're not ready to make but also not ready to undo. The ledger was still open on her laptop, cursor blinking after the last entry she'd typed. Sent. She could close the account tomorrow. She could keep it running exactly as it was, a slow, silent test of who noticed its absence versus who only ever noticed what it gave them. She didn't know yet which one she wanted to find out. She only knew that for the first time in 6 years, the ledger wasn't hers to balance alone, and that the not knowing strangely felt less like loss than like the first honest thing in the whole account.